specific to the survey and the consultation that has been conducted. That finished on the 31st of December, and that's going to take a few more weeks. That meeting is actually going to take place in February for that, because obviously you will understand there's a whole vast amount of information to be collated and sent through the system. But what I will do, if there is something of significance before your next scrutiny again, I will do whatever. In fact, I will speak to you outside of this meeting so that you are fully abreast. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Close.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, Mr. Ball, can I just thank you for the way you've gone about this, because you've kept us informed at all times, and I think that needs said. So thanks very much for that, and that's really, really helpful. But my question was going to be that I'm surprised that we've heard nothing at all about the second tender involvement with 4 tragic deaths that more or less happened on Rutland's roads before Christmas. We've heard nothing about that, what the response was, how the fire responded to that. We've heard about the fire at Mr. King's factory, I think it was, or nearby. Or was it?
Explanation, Chair.
Yeah, okay, well, but what I'm interested in is those 4 road deaths. Yeah, sorry, yeah, thank you.
Personal explanation.
The fire was in a factory that is adjacent to ours, but it was not in our factory, didn't affect our factory at all.
Thank you. Did you just want to finish your question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. That was the one I always thought you were going to be up, Councillor Ball, but obviously if you could just enlighten us a little bit more, because it was a very serious situation in my view.
Thank you, Councillor Close. Councillor Ball.
Well, I will certainly any fatalities within the road operation within Rutland are something that surely concerns us all. However, there is a well-run system stroke practice of dealing with all incidents of this type, and I would only be advised if there were any delays in the pump attending, if there were any special circumstances. And as tragic as they are, I believe that it's followed the normal 999 pattern, the ambulance call out where necessary, the pump call out for washing down the road where there's discharge of oil and petrol. So these were not directly related to the fire brigade, if you like, saving lives. Certainly they would have been there cutting out, but it was all done within the standard procedures. So I have not been alerted that this is, and when I say exceptional, I have to use my words carefully because these things are tragic. But it was within the normal professional conduct that the fire brigade would work to in situations like this. I will ask the question on Wednesday, but the way I have set matters up with the fire authority, if there is anything which is outside the norm, and this would be outside the norm, I am automatically alerted. When we had the fire out at Embingham, I would automatically have all the arrival times. And sometimes I would say, well, everything is absolutely perfect there. We could have a debate about it, but there's little that we can do. And that's the way I operate. But I will ask the question to just assure you of your concerns, and again, I can come back to you outside of the meeting after Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Walters.
Thank you, Chair. I also appreciate the reports from Mr. Ball and the way he just worded the latest answer. I wonder if he understands my concern that he has mentioned appliances attending from Lincolnshire. I understand appliances sometimes attend from Northamptonshire in the south of the county. So as well as talking about Leicestershire and Rutland, can he inform us at some time of any planned reductions in tenders in other counties that may affect the overall resilience of appliances attending this county? I think it's something that we haven't heard of.
Very quickly, yes, that was actually covered on the presentation. It's one of the directives, if you like, that our leader also sent through. When you're looking at the Leicestershire, the Combined Fire Authority, we were saying basically we are not alone. So whilst we are looking at our resilience, how will our resilience be affected by similar cuts across the border? And you're quite right, and that was taken into account at the Chief Fire Officer's presentation, and will be continue to be monitored because we have to keep an eye on what their own cutbacks are. The cross-border resilience works totally around us, and even further afield. And as an example, well over a year ago now, when we had a huge fire 80 miles from here at an oil refinery, if you remember down south, units from Leicestershire were directed to the help out in that particular situation, but there were about 30 or 40 pumps. So the whole system works where there is a need, the actual units are fed into that centre. Hence the mobilisation of market deeping to come and support Rutland in the event of there being another fire elsewhere. It's really a little bit like the old-fashioned films when you saw the fighter planes and all the units being moved. It happens all the day. You may say a fire engine is not activated as a call-out, but it is repositioned to actually respond within the 10-minute allocation across the whole country, actually, not just Rutland and Melton and Leicestershire. I hope that answers you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The information that the Uppingham tender was not available is slightly disturbing. And I don't think this was mentioned at the meeting that we had. That fact should redouble our resolve within this council to maintain the 2 pumps in the open station. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points? Thank you. Can we move to Councillor Rose? Oh, sorry, Ms. Waller, I didn't see that.
Thank you very much. It's actually on the same point. I wonder if I could ask Mr. Bull to double check some information he's given us this evening. My recollection is that it was the Oakham reserve pump that was only available for 60% of the time, not the Uppingham one. Indeed, that nothing was said at all about the Uppingham one. So I think we would all find it helpful to know my recollection may well be wrong, of course, but the clarity on that would be helpful, please.
Yes, again, I'm just really working from my memory. I will certainly check it out, but what I would say, the Uppingham station is retained. It always has been retained, and that means it is the actual firemen are employed elsewhere during the day, and they have a signing on and a signing off system. But I will certainly check that and get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Begg.
Just on that same subject, actually it was one of the written questions to which they replied was, how often is Uppingham not available? I haven't got it in my head now, I've got a piece of paper here, but it should be on that piece of paper and I'll check it for you.
I never got the paper.
My 3 things: East Midlands Councils, I'm chairing a report on health inequalities. At the last meeting, I think I told you we had our meeting with the MPs down House of Commons. We're getting rapidly to the stage where the report is reached its final shape, etc. I'm due to present it to the full meeting of East Midlands Councils at the end of February. We saw the draft, another draft this afternoon. It's coming together very well. Some of the key things on the inequalities, need to say, it's funding. One is actual health inequalities. If I say that by living in Rutland, I have an expectancy of being able to last till 81. If I lived in parts of Leicester City or Nottingham City, I might not make the next meeting. That's the difference in some of the inequalities. The other one is on leadership, and the 4th one is on recruitment. Over 40% of the GP applications in the East Midlands are vacant. And we are struggling both with nurses and with GPs in the East Midlands, so there'll be more on that. On Thursday I'm going to the National LGA People and Places Board. Key items on the agenda there are broadband, housing and economic development. Members of there are 21 members of the board. They range from the leaders in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire to Cornwall, Surrey, Kent, Cornwall, right up to the Lake District, and that is on Thursday. And the Chief Exec and I regularly attend Better Care Together, which is another health thing where the acute hospitals, the CCGs, clinical commissioning groups, and local councils get together as to how we face the issue of a deficit of 350 million over the next 5 years in the acute hospitals in Leicester. There's a great deal of work, a great deal of paper, and there's some very serious decisions that will have to be made. At the moment, actually, I don't see anything that will dramatically affect Rutland, but there are opportunities as well as problems in that area.
Can I just ask one question, please, while we're obviously within your portfolio? You very kindly put out these...
Mr. Plews, I'm sorry, is your question related to something that Mr. Bailey has spoken about this evening? As
Well,
the only questions
he's given an update, I presume, with this portfolio. I've got a bit of a
No,
question.
I'm sorry, I can only take questions directly relating to the matters which Mr. Bailey has raised tonight under joint arrangements with external organisations. But obviously, sort of, if you'd like to discuss that sort of with Mr. Bailey at another time.
No, that's fine, Chair. Thanks for the
Thank you.
clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. Okay, so we'll move on now to item number 13, which is notice of motions.
None received, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, which takes us on to item number 14, the review of the polling places, which will be introduced by the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. Members have before them this evening a report to approve the polling districts, places and stations that are used for elections in Rutland for the next 5 years. I've just drawn members' attention to a transposition in terms of the appendices. They've been put in a different order than is referred to in the report, so where Appendix A is referred to in the text of the report, it actually refers to Appendix B. The previous review took place in 2011, and the current legislation means that the review must be completed by the 31st of January this year, hence it being presented before members this evening. However, if there are any amendments that are proposed this evening to the list as recommended, then obviously we can revisit that accordingly within the legislation provided. Public consultation has taken place and the responses that we have received were included within the appendix to the report. However, a late response received from the Rutland Access Group has been circulated to members, and I think there are copies available tonight if members have not been able to see that. Whilst the response was late, clearly from the Rutland Access Group, it was one that we wanted to put before you this evening, so despite me missing the deadline, it has been included in the papers for discussion this evening. Of particular interest clearly are the comments that they make in relation to disability access issues. And we've had a long history of working with that group in a very positive way to improve access issues across the county, and we certainly think the work that they do. The recommendation that is included within the report then is that no changes are made to the current arrangements as they are deemed to be satisfactory to the polling districts, places and stations as shown in Appendix B to this report, and would seek to ask you for a proposal of that recommendation.
Thank you very much indeed. Do I have a proposer for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Bailey. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor King. Members, would anybody like to make any comments? Councillor Conley.
It's only a quick one, really. The report from the Rutland Access Group, there's actually 2 drop-down codes, one on each side of the entrance to Kettenline Group.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Oxley.
Yes, following on from that, Madam Chairman, just asking what will be the outcome of this report. Presumably you will be writing to all the village halls and the like involved in order to hopefully get some positive feedback from this report. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed, as part of the preparations for election, we contact all of the venues just to make sure that they are available and we know what our requirements are. As part of that process, we would make them aware of the issues that have been just to add to that, at every election that takes place, whatever the polling venue is, there are 2 visits during the day by visiting inspectors, part of the elections process and elections team. And one of the things that they do is conduct a checklist just to make sure that the installations on the day of the poll are as they should be. And we use that as an opportunity just to pick up anything that may have changed or anything that's not quite right on the day, and use it as an opportunity to follow up with the venues to make sure that they're correct.
Councillor Gale.
There's reference in this report regarding the growth of Hawksmead and the impact upon the ward that Mark and myself serve. I'm a little concerned that the Hawksmead development I think it's mainly occupied by new residents to Rutland, and the girls, the guide hook, which is polling station, is right at the opposite end of my ward, and I don't know what we do as a local authority to make the new people to the county aware of exactly where that site is, that polling station is. If there's nothing the council can do, then perhaps it's something that the candidates at the election could do prior to the election to give everyone an opportunity to go along. I don't know if the Chief Executive put anything to it.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a very helpful comment, and as part of the communication strategy to support the election, we'll certainly make sure that we focus on the newer properties within the polling districts to make sure that there's very high awareness of where the polling station is.
Thank you.
Any other members? On the recommendation 2.1, actually now sort of saying that appendix B rather than A, has been proposed and seconded. So could I ask for all those in favour, please?
Unanimous.
Thank you very much indeed. That is unanimous. We'll now move to item number 15, which is the independent members remuneration panel item, which will be introduced by us.
Covers the review of Rutland County Council members' allowances scheme, members will be aware that a revised set of recommendations have been provided this evening. I just wanted to clarify exactly why that was the case. Firstly, it allows Councillor Wallace circulated a question earlier, yesterday actually, which on further investigation has fleshed out some issues that we've taken further legal opinion on. Firstly, to clarify for members, in terms of the index linking, just to explain exactly what happens. If members approve the recommendation to approve the scheme as it currently stands, any further index linking would be on that base figure. So either inflation or deflation in relation to index linking would be based on the current figures for remuneration. The second issue for clarification it relates to the proposed allowance for the opposition minority group. And the legislation, the law guiding this is very clear that if we have in place a party group system and we make special allowances, then we have to make an allowance available for a representative of the minority groups. Now, what isn't prescriptive is what that level of allowance is, but we do actually have to make, it is a requirement upon us to actually make that allowance available. So, hence the revised recommendations that we've made available to members tonight. Clearly, I'm happy to take any questions on any of this. The recommendations are there to be proposed and seconded by members.
Very much indeed. Can I ask for a proposer and a seconder for the recommendations, please?
I am happy to propose on one thing, and that is that we need to get this process going and we need to debate. I personally have issues which I would like to come back on, but I'm prepared to propose it so that we can get on with actually discussing and debating the key issue.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conte. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Gale, would you like to begin?
Could I be just clear about what we're the vote on? These three recommendations here, does that actually include the amount of money that's referred to in the report? Because if it is the case, then
If I can, Chair, that would help. Members were provided this evening with an additional piece of paper which I think clarifies the revised recommendations which have just been proposed and seconded. And you will see in response to Councillor Gale's question at 2.4, the figure proposed carries forward the recommendation of the independent remuneration panel of £1,000.
Okay. Is that clear?
that's clear, but perhaps I would like to do an amendment for it.
Councillor Conley seconded it, so yeah, that's absolutely fine. Councillor Gale, what's the wording of the amendment?
I have to do it written down, but never mind, I shall have to try and remember what I said. It was something along the lines of that due to the reduction of funding that we have to provide essential services, that for the year 2015-16 there is no increase at all. In fact, because it is only a small amount, we actually take a reduction of 5% in our current allowances. Now, if you can put that into some sort of sentence,
They have to give you a vote.
that is what I want to put forward. It will demonstrate to the public that we recognise that we have less money to provide their services, and as it's a small amount of money that we're actually talking about, it would, I think, go a long way to give the local community a greater confidence in this authority.
Thank you for your patience, members. I was just seeking some clarification. Councillor Gale, what I would need to ask you is whether that would apply to all special responsibility allowances and allowances for members.
Piece of paper I wrote, it was to cover allowances right across the board.
So, yes, then
Yes,
that
it would.
basis.
And while I'm on my feet, I would ask for a recorded vote as well, if I could get the support.
Okay, before I take that any further, I do need to ask if there is a seconder for Councillor Gale's proposal. I saw Councillor Richardson first, so I'll take Councillor Richardson. Thank you very much indeed.